Good morning. I thought we would talk about the eclipses today, since we have one coming up on the 14th with the new moon in Libra, and we have one coming up on the 28th with the full moon in Taurus. So, to start off, I would like to say that you shouldn't be afraid of anything in astrology. And the reason I say this is for us anxious folks, like anticipating something is not all that useful, at least for me personally. It has never made me more prepared to be like afraid. Maybe that's just my Aries moon talking a big game, who knows? Um, but I think it's best to approach astrology and really any psychic information, any information really in terms of magnitude, like keep it neutral, look at it in terms of magnitude of like impact and kind of orient accordingly. So, for example, with the eclipses, we know that they typically clear things or bring things in or both, and it's best to just like get out of the way. So, of course, this is prompted by a dream because the stars talk to me at night, I suppose, and hopefully to you too. I had a dream last night that I was talking with a bunch of other witchy folks and friends in my life who were asking about the eclipse. And in the dream, it was happening. And in the dream, I said that eclipses will show us where the cracks in our foundations are. And it's best to stop trying to patch up these cracks, but to look within of what is trying to come out or what wants to be heard. And I think this is a really good, I do say so myself, a really good message for this first eclipse upcoming on the 14th in Libra. So this is an eclipse in Libra. It'll be on the new moon. And I think the reason why it's asked, the dream said stuff about like looking at what are the cracks in our foundations and stop trying to patch them up, look at what's underneath them, is kind of because of the configuration we have here. So we have the sun and moon obviously in Libra, but we also have Mercury hanging out there with them. And so new communication is something that we can expect. And the theme material of what that is really going to depend on what house Libra is for you. And I won't do all 12, but know that there are messages that are going to come through to kind of give you a sense of, I don't know what your internal and external world is really looking for with the sun and the moon together and Mercury. Just like expect some information specifically related to Libra energy. So, I talked about in another video with the North Node and South Node being in Libra and the North Node in Aries, that we're going to have some revelations, some epiphanies around like, oh shit, I need to, work on this codependency thing. I need to be made aware of the ways that this shows up in my life. Like, how am I asking others for permission to be myself? Those sorts of things. And so with this eclipse, because we got Mercury in the bunch, expect some insight, some information, some communication around relationships. And for example, a message I got for myself, take it if it applies to you, leave it if it does not, was how am I not being a good friend to myself, in the way that Libra is relational. So, okay, how are you showing up in friendship? And how are you showing up in partnership? But also, how are you showing up in relationship to yourself? Like, are you being a good friend to literally everyone else but yourself? Might be something worth investigating. Let's see, what else does this have for us? I think that's the big one that I want to touch upon. I mean, there's a square to Pluto, but it's not tight enough. You might feel it if you've got a ton of cardinal signs, like if you've got planets between like 20 to 28 degrees of Aries, Libra, Cancer, or Capricorn. Again, not to scare you, just that those planets will be pulled on because they're going to be part of this configuration. Nothing to be afraid of. Just open your eyes and open your ears and open your heart to things that are coming through. And I don't know why this is the imagery I give. For me, eclipses feel like when it's an eclipse on the south node, as this one is, it can feel like we're clinging on to dear life to like this dirty old rag. And like we've had the rag for a really long time. So we're like really not keen on giving it up. And the universe is trying to pull the dirty rag out of our hands, being like, let me just wash this. Let me give you a new one. Let me give you one that's made of better material. And we're like, no, like, I don't want to let it go. You have to let it go. When the universe is tugging, it's best to just let go. And know that there's going to be something cool on the other side, knowing that you'll know yourself better. That if an eclipse is trying to pull something away from you, it's not yours. Let it go. It's okay. It has a greater scheme for you on the other side of things. And I think on the flip side, when it's, you know, post eclipse or something that's revealed to you during the eclipses around something that you should be receiving or taking on or stepping into, if we're like doing this and dodging it and pretending not to see our greatness, our coolness, our creativity, you name it, the universe is just going to keep knocking, and it's worth being open to what it has to say. It's got greater schemes than we know about. Okay, so that's the one on the 14th. If you want to look at where Libra is in your chart, like house-wise, I would just do it whole sign because it's easiest. Look at like one of these. Like one of those. Come on, Google. Faster. And feel all the Virgos cringing at my tabs that are open. Oh, that's helpful. Okay, cool. Hold on. How about you? Okay, so 1st through 12. So figure out where Libra falls in the order for you, and then see what themes might be coming up. Okay. Now, for the eclipse on the 28th, hopefully I have enough insight on this one. The other one I can feel already. This one is a little bit further away. Oh, funny. It's all about communication, y'all. So we've got Mercury in the mix once again, which makes sense. Mercury is never that far from the sun. But I just like to see that. Okay. It feels like the first one on the 14th, the new moon in Libra eclipse, feels like a contraction, and this one feels like an expansion or like an exhale, breathing it out. And so I think thinking of them as a pair is useful. This one's going to be on the Scorpio Taurus axis, and this happens right around when the North Node and South Node move signs. We'll get like 2 extra eclipses that year out of the usually 4 that are on the axis right next to us. So we came out of having the North Node and South Node in Taurus and Scorpio, moving into Aries and Libra. So we'll just get 1 more eclipse on the previous axis. Okay. So big feelings. We've got Jupiter in range to the moon. I know that's a pretty wide orb, meaning those planets aren't like super duper close to each other. But with the moon and the sun, I use a bit of a wider orb because with the moon or the sun, like you're going to be able to feel it, in my humble opinion. So take it or leave it. We've got Mercury opposite Jupiter, and we've got obviously the sun opposite the moon, all in this configuration. With this one, we're shining like all of this Scorpio insight and light onto the moon in Taurus, top of Jupiter. That is fascinating. It just feels like a big release to me. And like the way that truth will set you free, and the way that once you have a bit of a perspective shift, how everything else just like lines up and makes sense. And like it could be an emotional one because we're talking about Scorpio energy. But yeah, and it's the nodes are square to Pluto. So yeah, just expect some like insight from internal you who might have been trying to get your attention for a while. The perspective thing is about Jupiter being and Mercury being opposite to one another, because Jupiter is like, let's take the higher perspective. Let's look at things from a bird's eye view, really zoom out, put things into context. And with Mercury, we're like in the weeds, down in the deets, trying to figure out patterns. So having both plus this eclipse is kind of like, and here's the answer. And here's also maybe some stuff to do about it. With Mercury opposite Jupiter, because I have this natally, just know that some anxiety might come up around this time, because sometimes when we have new insight, we're like, oh, fuck, I got to act on this right now. I got to make these changes right now. And that's not really true. You can start to scheme, you can call on your support systems, you can journal, you can reflect. It makes more sense to like give yourself time. For each eclipse that happens, we have like 6 months-ish afterwards of like integration time. So just gobble up all the insights and then write it out. You don't have to change everything tomorrow. It's not possible to change everything tomorrow. All that the eclipses ask of you is that you're open to seeing things a different way, that you're open to letting things in and letting things out. Just being open to that makes the process easier. So being open to looking at parts of yourself that you might have been hiding from, or, and again, this is not to scare anybody. This is not, it's just in terms of magnitude. And any transit can have different magnitude for different folks. Like I've had some full moons that have been like wildly intense, and I'm not scared of the full moon every month. I think that fear mongering is kind of like, it's like astro clickbait bullshit. It's not really to call anyone out. It's just like we're all playing this stupid game under capitalism, and freaking people out seems to draw people in. And I don't like that in terms of ethics. I think they're shitty ethics. So yeah, if you feel like a spiritual teacher or a teacher of any kind is freaking you out, or taking your power, asking you to give it to them, just keep that in mind. You're the expert on you and always will be. All right. Happy eclipse season. We're going to be fine. It's during Halloween. It's a time of transition anyways, so none of this is really that unexpected. You don't even have to hold on for dear life. Really let go, see what comes through, and then just respond from there. All right. Good luck, everybody.